Hey y'all, if you're like me, you're either planting out your garden or dreaming about planting out your garden. Each year, I grow hundreds of pounds of food in my small backyard garden, but there are 5 things that I do before I plant out anything that sets my garden up for success. Tip number 1, make sure you are planning to plant things that will actually grow based off of the time of year that it is in your garden. Just because something is being sold at a local nursery or a big box store does not mean that it is going to work in your yard. A lot of people get hung up on the zones, the different growing zones, and the reality is growing zones only have to do with your average lowest temperature. It has nothing to do with your heat or how quickly the heat will set in your smaller microclimate. So when you show up at the big box stores and you're seeing these beautiful broccoli plants or different brassicas or even something like cilantro, and you spend a decent amount of money on that product, you are basically setting yourself up for failure if you try to plant that where I live right now in Southeast Louisiana. The reality is all of those things are going to bolt before they ever form a head. So my recommendation before you plant anything is check with your local agricultural extension office. I live in Louisiana. My local ag is LSU Ag, and they have out a planting guide. And in that planting guide, they have the dates for both North Louisiana and South Louisiana on when to plant what and whether to plant transplants or from seeds and your windows for planting. Tip number 2, make sure your soil is warm enough for what you want to plant out. Certain plants, like peppers, if the soil is too cool, it will stunt them. However, tomatoes can handle slightly cooler soil. So those are all out here planted and thriving, whereas my peppers are still safely tucked away in the greenhouse until the soil warms up enough for them. Plants tell the temperature based off of their roots. This is why it's important that your soil temperatures be warm enough before you plant out in it. Tip number 3, sunlight matters, especially when it comes to growing and ripening tomatoes. Now, most large slicing variety of tomatoes are going to be looking for 6 to 8 hours of sun, preferably morning sun if you live where it gets really hot in the afternoons like I do. So it's important before you plant out anything in your yard that you track your sun. And I know in my backyard, I really don't get full sun in any one particular location. That's okay, and I'll explain to you why in just a second. The first thing you're going to want to do if you don't know if your backyard gets full sun or wherever you're planting is you're going to want to go out and track the sun, preferably around the time right before you plant, because the sun trajectory obviously changes between winter and spring. I live in a very wooded area. The sun comes up over my house, passes this way, and sets behind all those trees. So when it's close to planting day, go out, watch where the sun is. 8 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m. is about what I look for. And see what parts of your yard are getting sun. Now, this particular bed is in a shady location. It is 1 o'clock, and as you can see, it's barely getting dappled sunlight. That's okay though, because I am very strategic about what I plant in this bed. Yes, these are tomatoes and some celery, but these tomato varieties are smaller varieties. This is more a combination of cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes, and maybe a few paste tomatoes. Will I get a bumper crop out of this bed? No. Will I still get some tomatoes out of this bed? Absolutely. And to me, some is better than none. So if you have a shady spot in your yard that you still want to utilize, just try planting out a smaller variety of tomato. Tip number 4, have a watering plan in place or a watering schedule if you're going to be watering by hand. These grow bags are nice, but when our temperatures hit the triple digits and the humidity is sky high, the last thing I want to have to do is come out and water twice a day. Now, I grow many different ways. I personally grow in self-watering or self-wicking beds. All of my garden beds are self-watering, self-wicking. I also grow in self-watering buckets, and my grow bags used to be on drip irrigation. They've moved places in my yard and drip is not available. So I will have to improvise this year and use an Oya setup in my grow bags. Any bottle that can fit inside the Oya and holds water will work. I tend to use old discarded bottles. You want to have this plan in place before the heat of the summer kicks in. And even if that's something as simple as a sprinkler with a timer, trust me when I tell you, my garden, the number one reason it has ever struggled or failed during previous summers is because I just didn't want to go out and deal with it. Okay, tip number 5. Similar to tip number 4, you want to make sure you have a fertilizer routine in place before the heat of the summer sets in. I will be the first to admit that I am not always the best at keeping up with fertilizing my yards. Now, I get away with that and still get a large harvest because I practice compost in place. Essentially, I'm always putting food scraps in my garden beds, and even though they are not open to the ground, the worms are still in there crawling all over the place. Now, this year, to make my life a little easier, I am going to be using a dry erase, I'm gonna try not to blind you, a dry erase calendar. And this is something that I can keep in my greenhouse. I can write on when I fertilized, when I didn't fertilize. That way I know what's going on, and hopefully this will keep me a little bit more consistent. There are all kinds of fertilizers you can use in your yard. Pick what you're comfortable with and stick with it. Because while fertilizer matters, consistency matters more. I have 2 quick bonus tips for you. First off, once you do have your gardens planted out, you want to write down where every plant is, especially if you are intending to grow your garden for production and you want to keep track of who your good producers are. I have used every plant label and ink pen known to man, paint pens, markers, you name it. I've run the gauntlet. They all fade in the Louisiana heat. It just is what it is. Second bonus tip, if you know you live in a very wooded area and you know that you are prone to bird pressure. Now, if it's your first year gardening, you may not know this, but sometimes birds are hungry or thirsty enough, they will peck at your tomatoes. I get asked all the time if my reflectors are there to deter birds. No, the reflectors are just there as stakes. They don't actually deter birds. What does work in deterring birds is setting up their own section in your yard with a bird feeder and a bird bath. I typically put it on the other end of my yard away from my tomatoes, and they are more than happy to hang out over there, and they leave my fruit alone. And if you are in the market for bird feeders, I do have a 20% off discount code to the King's Yard Amazon store. I will have that store and code linked down below. Well, I hope you found these tips helpful. I'd love to know what you're growing in your spring garden this year. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see how my garden progresses along and just how much food I can pull out of this small backyard, I encourage you to subscribe. And until next time, stay blessed.